What if the stories we all think are just pure science fiction? What if they're actually history? History we've just forgotten. Well, we're about to dive into a declassified CIA file that tells a story so wild it makes Hollywood look tame. And the craziest part? It might just be true.
Yeah, I know, that's a pretty bold statement. But honestly, when you see the evidence from the CIA's own files, you might actually start to wonder. A secret government lab, psychic kids? Look, that wasn't just a TV show. It was a very, very real program.
And it had a name, Project Stargate. Now, this wasn't some, back-of-a-napkin idea they cooked up. No, this was a fully funded, top-secret operation run by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency for 2 decades straight.
That's right, $20 million. Your tax dollars at work. But get this, they weren't spending it on new planes or tanks. They were spending it to weaponize the human mind. So why would they pour that kind of cash into something so out there? The answer is kind of simple, because it worked.
They called them remote viewers. These were people who could sit in a quiet room in Maryland and with just a set of coordinates, describe a hidden location thousands of miles away with, just stunning accuracy. The results were so far beyond what you'd call chance that the military had no choice but to take it very, very seriously.
But tucked away deep in those Stargate files, there's one experiment that, well, it wasn't about spying on Soviet missile silos. It was about something else, something much bigger. And the way this mission was set up, it was unlike anything else they'd done.
Okay, so picture this. The date is May 22nd, 1984. The protocol is completely airtight. A psychic, they call them a viewer, is brought into a room. The guy running the test, the monitor, he just hands him a sealed envelope. The psychic has absolutely no idea what's inside. He is flying completely blind.
So what was in the envelope? Just a simple card with a set of geographic coordinates on it. The monitor reads them out loud, the psychic closes his eyes, and the session begins. And the first words out of his mouth were just startling. He starts describing this massive yellowish pyramid sitting in some kind of giant crater. He's talking about terrible dust storms and this overwhelming feeling of geologic catastrophe, like he was looking at a world that had met a horrible, horrible end.
And right here, this is where the experiment takes a sharp turn from just being strange to being, well, something else entirely. See, the monitor didn't just ask the psychic to look at a place. He asked him to look at a time.
Following the instructions that were in that sealed envelope, the monitor tells him, go to the same spot, but go 1 million years into the past. The official transcript actually notes that the psychic's entire demeanor changed. He got agitated, really distressed. He starts describing what he sees, beings he calls shadow people. He saw them as ancient, incredibly tall, and thin, all huddled together as their world was literally falling apart around them. You can almost feel the desperation coming through the words. They knew it was over, their planet was dying, and they were all gathered inside these massive pyramids, just waiting for a ship, a vessel, he called it, to come rescue them and take them to a new home.
So after it was all over, the psychic, who was clearly shaken up by the whole thing, he opens his eyes and he asks the monitor a really simple question. Where on Earth was that? What place did you just send me to?
The monitor just opens the sealed envelope. The target location, it wasn't on Earth at all. The psychic had just spent an hour describing a location on the planet Mars.
Now, this one single, incredibly bizarre session is the foundation for a truly wild theory, because if the psychic was right, if a dying race was waiting for a ship to carry them to a new world, then you have to ask, where did they go?
And that brings us to the Mars refugee theory. The core idea is that we, humanity, are not actually from Earth. That we are the descendants of those ancient refugees who fled a dying Mars about 1 million years ago.
Now, the people who believe this theory, they point to some really strange quirks about us humans. Like, why do so many of us have bad backs? Well, maybe our spines evolved for a world with much lower gravity. Or why do we get sunburned so easily? Maybe because our skin is adapted for a planet much, much farther from the sun. And all this is layered on top of what scientists now agree on, that Mars was once a habitable Earth-like world.
So, what if it's not just a theory? What if that feeling that so many of us get sometimes, that feeling of not quite belonging here, that constant search for something more? What if that isn't just in our heads? What if it's a kind of genetic echo, a faint memory of a home we lost 1 million years ago?
But hold on, This brings up a huge question. If this story is even remotely true, why on earth would the government ever declassify this file? Why would they let a secret this explosive just get out? Unless the secret itself is a distraction designed to hide something even bigger.
Seriously, think about it. Aliens on Mars is the ultimate conspiracy theory, right? It's the perfect story to get everyone looking up at the sky. So maybe by releasing it, they're trying to hide something even more shocking. Something that isn't millions of miles away on another planet, but is right here under our feet.
So let's think this through. If a technologically advanced race arrived on this planet, where would they go? They'd probably pick the most isolated continent they could find. A continent that, 1,000,000 years ago, wasn't a frozen wasteland, but a lush paradise. Today, we call it Antarctica, a place that to this day is weirdly off-limits, with military no-fly zones and giant blacked-out sections on Google Earth.
And it gets even stranger. Right after World War II, the U.S. military launched Operation High Jump, a massive naval fleet sent to Antarctica. The official story was that it was a training exercise, but Admiral Richard Byrd's own diary talks about engaging an enemy force, maybe a remnant of that ancient civilization, with flying craft that could move from pole to pole at unbelievable speeds.
So maybe the Mars file isn't the secret at all. Maybe it's just misdirection. A story to keep us all looking up at the stars so we don't start looking down at the South Pole. And it makes you ask the real question. What did Admiral Byrd actually find in Antarctica? And what is still down there, waiting for us, frozen under all that ice?